Hi, gang. This is Dana Snyder, the voice of Master Shake, and I also played a voice of Zinger the Tidy Cat on an internet-only Tidy Cat campaign, and I never listened to None Taken.
Thanks, Dana Snyder, friend of the show.
And we're live.
You know him from Granny on Squidbillies.
Yeah.
Never born.
Atlanta was a
That's him. That's the same guy.
Same guy.
Same guy.
Friend of the show, Dana.
Friend of the show. I had a question I want to ask you to start the show.
Okay. Do tell.
I've got some sort of nostalgic and movie type questions that I think are going to bookend our show. First one has to do with Mary Poppins. How's your Mary Poppins knowledge in your head?
Ooh.
I mean, we all saw it as a kid.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you raised a child. I'm sure they watched that movie with the bag that they keep pulling unreasonably large things out of. That's a common trope that you show children.
And the chimney sweepers and
the chimneys, the Dick Van Dyke, right? Not Dick Van Patten.
No, different.
Not the dog food magnate.
You could eat that dog food. It was great.
Yeah. Did we do that? Laura Loomer ate a bunch of dog food, right? We didn't play that clip. Did you see that clip? So somebody made a fake dog food thing. They just bought Purina and packaged it and sent it to her, paid for her to run an ad on her stream of this is great dog food for humans. And they just put that freeze dried treats that they put on top of the dog food, like those that make it interesting, kind of, right?
Right. Yeah.
And she ate it live. She's like, "This is edible for humans. You guys can eat this. This is bison." And it was just like somebody's freeze dried. I don't know if that was real or if that was just somebody capitalizing on her eating dog food and saying they made her do it. Doesn't change the fact she ate dog food.
It's pretty funny either way.
It is funny either way. Yeah, it was funny when Don Patton did it, right?
And when Don and Mike did it.
Don and Mike did it. Yeah. Mary Poppins.
Mike partook actually, but Don definitely did.
Don did. Oh, we've been watching. Hey, dude, start watching the Larry Sanders Show. Natasha actually really liked it.
Oh,
2 episodes. Yeah. You have Max, right? Don't you have Max through us or someone?
I have Max. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you should definitely watch it. Please do.
Okay.
Because the Hank's Look Around Cafe. Hank Kingsley always makes me think of Mike O'Mara. That's the explainer there. Back to Mary Poppins.
Yes.
Do you remember there was 2 kids, right? There was the boy and the girl.
Yeah.
And there might have been a younger one. Do you think that the younger boy in Mary Poppins served in World War II?
Oh, geez.
Because the movie took place in 1910, and he was 6.
So
he was old enough to be drafted.
Definitely.
He'd be a little old, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember what the draft age was, but my grandfather was born in 11 and he was in 2.
I mean, during the Blitz, right? Like they probably took anybody they could, right?
Yeah, awesome.
I've done a little bit of follow-up on this question.
Okay.
In the sequel, did you watch the sequel to Mary Poppins?
I did not. I didn't even know there was a sequel.
Oh, I saw it in theaters. I saw it in theaters while I was doing a dry January. And when I tell you to go into a theater and watch Mary Poppins 2 sober, I don't recommend any of this.
That doesn't sound like a good time.
It was a terrible time.
Yeah.
In the sequel, it takes place years later, and the young boy from the first Mary Poppins was a banker, just like his dad was a banker.
Yes.
Okay. Nepotism. And I think his last name was Banks, which that kind of bothers me. Bankers were exempted from the draft.
No shit.
Yep. So Michael Banks probably did not serve with honor.
Wow.
Yeah. Draft.
But athletes were.
I know, right? But what are athletes doing, right? They're not.
Yeah. Although I don't know. They might have been exempt too and just chose to go anyways. I'm not sure.
No. Ted Williams was drafted. Oh, yeah. Maybe Ted Williams enlisted.
I think he enlisted.
Yeah. That's my go-to is Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Noted racist Ted Williams. All right. Well, we solved a mystery.
We did.
You guys also ever wondered whether that kid in Mary Poppins fought in World War II? Probably not. Unless he enlisted, right?
Yes.
All right. I had a Purple Patriot on Instagram, an account that I follow.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm recommending them.
So is that between red and blue is kind of what
that's what I take it as. Yeah.
Okay.
Purple Patriot on Instagram shared a fashion tip. And I said, if you ever see fashion tips like this again, please send them to me. They are perfect show fodder. If any of you like to do your stitching at home and you like to be If you're, remember, Alan, if you're a knitter.
Yes.
Okay. I think I have a recording of you saying that you're a knitter. We're at the top of the show. I shouldn't stop things down just for niche phrases that Alan says. You got lucky this time, bud. Yeah. So here's some knitting advice, and then we'll start the show proper, shall we?
Let's do it.
Create a bridge of thread between fabrics with a technique called faggoting. First, finish your fabric edges and press back your seam allowances. I'm pressing them to the wrong side here by 1/2 inch. I'll place a 1/2 centimeter wide strip of cardboard at the center and in front of the needle, and tape it down to create an easy gap guide for my fabrics to feed against. Set the machine to your faggoting stitch and start sewing. The needle will zigzag between the fabrics and leave chains of thread in the middle, a sturdy and decorative design detail.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. All right. You ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken. To our Friday headlines roundup edition of No Take It, where every week my good friend Alan wrangles up the headlines from all the corners of the internet and we talk them at you. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcasting a day, I don't mean to brag, and Alan watches 3 hours, shame, of cable news. So you don't have to. And now, get ready to take a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers.
So, another Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. Be like Smithers and head on over to nonetakenpod.com where you can join the Patreon. You can just subscribe to the show if you're overhearing this on your neighbor's phone. You can actually listen to this on your own phone by going to nonetakenpod.com and subscribing on your favorite audio platform. You can also get access to all of our merch. I'm not giving Alan anything to talk about, I don't think. But let's go back to that first thing. For the price of, I don't know, 11 bananas, you can if you give us all your banana money for $3, $9, or $18, pick which one suits your fancy. You can join the Patreon, where you'd get access to that video we just did of all the hidden track. If video isn't what does fit your fancy, you could do the audio. We do that there too. You can just listen. You can listen. And you know how you can listen? Because Alan set up an RSS feed. If you're a fucking nerd, you can click on that and it'll just open up in your podcast player. I believe that's how that works, right?
That is how that works.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you can have access to all our hidden tracks, exclusive early access to interviews that we do that we may or may not release later on the main feed. You get your own personal little RSS feed over there, as low as $3 a month. Not that many bananas.
It's very few bananas. And
Very
they'll be bad before you get around to them. If you buy that many, you're not going to get through that many. Monkeys know this, right? Like at some point, monkeys stop piling up bananas because they know they go bad. There's been studies on it.
If you're going to make banana bread later, that's just more carbs. And who needs that in their life?
Give us your banana bread money.
Carbs aren't good for you.
Yeah, carbs are bad.
All that stuff's over there, plus the merch store, like Dustin said. Also, there's a link at the bottom. Don't forget to support the people that support us. Slicketsdigital.com for all your marketing needs.
Damn it. For what?
Slicketsdigital.com.
Hell yeah. I'm not used to my timing on this yet.
What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. We made it to another weekend. The weekend's here. Have a fucking can of beer.
I'm drinking
Let's
whiskey
go.
now.
Oh, either way. That works too.
Yeah. The weekend's here. Drink some whiskey. The weekend's here. Butt chug it in your rear. None taken's here to, brighten your afternoon whenever you're listening to this.
James, you might want to do what you do.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I did wrangle up some headlines, shall we?
Yeah, we shall talk at them. Do you see this note where I was trying to get you to start the show?
I did.
Wake up sleepy. I sent a link. I sent it twice.
So for listeners who didn't hear the hidden track, I was reading a story that we'll talk about in other news and waiting in a lobby that was no longer active, and I didn't realize how late it was.
Alan was doing a Alan was doing it to me. He's like, no, if Dustin's not here yet, I'm gonna.
Yeah. So I looked at the TV and it was said 4:39. And I was like, oh shit, what happened? And I looked at my phone in the other room and Dustin had called me twice. So here we are. Anyways,
welcome to
the show. Headline number one: Lebanon's health
who decided to show
said at least 20 people were killed and 450 wounded in the second exploding device attack against Hezbollah, mostly walkie-talkies, as Israel announced a new phase in the war without commenting on the exploding device attacks.
You said you had but in our interregnum between Hidden Track and this, you said you had a solar-powered remote control. Have you checked the manufacturing? Made by a shadow company in Hungary.
It's Samsung, so I don't think so.
Same.
I think it's from the Good Korea.
Oh, Good Korea. Okay, yeah, North Korean electronics. I got a lot of questions on this, so we talked about it on the show. I think thanks to our intrepid listeners that we communicate with frequently, we had a pretty good. Well, Alan doesn't pay attention to the group chat, but I was able to enlighten you mid-show. I heard you react to me telling you about it, like, oh shit, I haven't heard that yet. So that kind of gives me an idea that we were sort of on the early track to this. Mm-hmm. It's been really, I'm gonna say fun. You can fucking at me, I don't care. It's been fun watching people be like, oh, look at all these people that got killed. It's like terrorists, yeah, people that like. Yes, Hezbollah people. Yes, these were sold to people within Hezbollah. Like, oh, but they were part of the government, right? Yep. The terrorist network Hezbollah has the control of the government there. Like, you're not like, why did you have the terrorist pager? Oh, the walkie-talkies are blown up. Why did you have the terrorist walkie-talkie? Like, it wasn't every fucking pager. It was targeted, and there was an elaborate scheme that they came up with.
It was a very specific device or devices that were targeted,
and they went through and made sure that if people in hospitals, like doctors and nurses that get paged, ended up with it, even if that meant they might be affiliated with Hezbollah, they went through and they changed out their pagers because they didn't want to
anticipated the attack,
blow up. For once they didn't want to blow up a hospital.
Jesus.
What does it mean that? So I've seen. I think NPR was like, Israel has admitted to this privately. I'm like, well, you're telling us publicly. Like, what does it mean that they've admitted to this in private?
So no public officials have gone on record and said, yeah, we did this.
So they're like, hey, so off the record, yeah, we did that.
But well, Israel does that all the time, though. Like they almost never take credit for acts like this. So it's not surprising that nobody, has gone on the record officially and said, yeah, we did that. Everybody knows they did it. Hezbollah knows they did it. The U.S. knows they did it. We know.
Could have been anybody, Alan.
Sure.
Could have been the Swedes.
Yeah, maybe get Cy Vance on that. Maybe there was some divers training in Miami to infiltrate pager networks.
These fucking Swedes, driving around with their music too loud and their, I get these Swedes are a fucking menace. And once you get one Swede in your town, they get all their friends to move in there, and before you know it, the Swedes are eating your cats.
Before you know it, you're listening to
Swedish death metal.
Yeah, and electronic dance music, and you got Mohawks and all that stuff happening.
Yeah, Viking Nazis and things like that. These fucking Swedes. So explain the whole Hungarian company thing. I assume you know as much as I do on this.
So the company that sold the walkie-talkies and the pagers was based in Taiwan, but they didn't manufacture the products there.
Oh, all those stands that were in my ads saying things like, "Oh, they were Motorola pagers. It was every Motorola." So that guy's full of shit. In fact.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then
his terrorist uncle died, and he's upset about it.
There was another company that was sort of a middleman, and then the Hungarian company was like.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I asked you a question. I'm interrupting, but like that's one of the things that pissed me off the most about this. It's like, why would Israel do this? They're killing it. Why would these people bring this violence into their house? Like, yeah, it's tragic. Like an 8 or a 9-year-old girl died. because the beeper went off and the kid picked it up. This motherfucker is like in a terrorist organization, and he brought that violence into his home. And we could extrapolate it back. They've been firing rockets into Israel since October 7th. So like, I don't have any sympathy for the people that were targeted in this. I have sympathy for the child, but I don't blame Israel for the fact that that guy joined a terrorist organization. And I mean, that's what happens. Live by the sword, die by the sword. You brought that on your kid. The person most directly related for that kid dying is that guy for bringing that violence into his house.
Yeah, I mean, so just to represent the other side of that argument, there are people, in fact, I think the U.S.'s official stance is that we would prefer that Israel hadn't done this. It escalates the situation. However, Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel even before.
Hezbollah's response to this is there's going to be an escalation in the war now. It's like, escalation? You guys have been firing rockets into Israel since October 7th. Like literally like, oh, Hamas did this? Hell yeah. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah. And they were they were essentially at war with Israel even before October 7th happened. So but you could say that yes, there were people injured, sort of, collateral damage to this attack that Israel pulled off. And yeah, you can say, well, you brought that on yourself, you brought that into your house, and you get what you got. It is on some levels tragic. There's a lot of people who lost eyes. There's a doctor reported to be talking about how, like, I think he's an optometrist, and how many people's had eye injuries because they looked at the pager when it beeped and then it blew up in their face. And people just lost a ton of eyes, and he was talking about just how traumatized.
At least one. I mean, people. There's no more than two.
He talked about being traumatized by just having to, like, work with these people and try and get them well, and how many of them just he had to take.
Did he use the word traumatized?
I think the reporter used the word traumatized.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the first time I've heard a doctor talk about like seeing gruesome medical.
I think what he said was he had to be robotic, because like if he was just going to deal with all of that, it would be too much. So he just had to go from
like that reporters interjecting themselves in that story quite a bit.
Perhaps, but the quote was that he said robotic, though. In any event, so yeah, there were people, there was collateral damage to this attack, and that's never a good thing. But in a state of war,
in comparison to the way Israel has gone about having concern for civilians, this is pretty tame.
Compared to what's happening in Gaza, compared to what happened on October 7th, where that was horrific. Yeah, this is very tame.
So why now? Why male models?
So that's kind of unclear. Israel, the next headline, I'll just say it. Israel launched. Okay, but I think this.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. It's your show.
Israel launched airstrikes in southern Lebanon as Hezbollah's leader gave a televised address calling device explosions a declaration of war. So kind of unclear of exactly why the timing. However,
that happened as he was giving that speech, right?
Yes.
Like that, because I heard it explained as sonic booms were heard as he was giving the speech, and that was Israeli warplanes doing their strikes.
So if you were going to really retaliate against Hezbollah, I mean, it would make sense that you would first blow up all their communication strategies.
Is this what I hear Ryan Macbeth say it, and I think Cody, this is a shaping operation, right? Is that what that's called?
Where you sort of prepare the ground before you go in? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because essentially, so they had resorted to this use of sort of old technology because they thought it was safer, less likely to be infiltrated by the Israelis. But it turns out, you can put explosives in pagers and walkie-talkies, and then they don't work anymore, and you get injured or killed. So
then, what are they communicating via now? Or they just go back to their cell phones? They're like, "Fucking let Israel listen."
Well, that's I don't have an answer to that.
The answer to that, you got some mysterious shade of brown there. I don't know, Alan. Can you tell us?
I don't have an answer to that, but it's pretty clear that a lot of their communication strategy has now been taken out by the Israelis.
Okay. So, how do you think these got into the country? Because like shipping a large amount of pagers would seem to set off the same flags you'd get shipping anything that has a large amount of explosives across a border.
That's an interesting point. And I don't know. It's also interesting to me that they even had networks that could run pagers, because like I don't think you can even buy a pager around here. Like, so that's also interesting. Perhaps their technology is a little less, advanced as ours is, but unclear how that
I've
happened.
seen people say things like, "Oh, this has been going on for years. This was an operation going on for years," and I see that, and I think that's almost like the exaggeration of like, like, "Oh, these Israelis, these schemy Jews, they've been doing this for years." That's what that comes across as to me. I think this could have been, as early as a few months ago when they said that they wanted to start communicating on low tech,
Right.
but there did have to be the shell company. There did have to be the ability to say, I could source you the pagers,
Yeah.
but it could be, as long as you have the explosives in country, you get the pagers in the country, and then you modify them there, and then you do the sell. Right.
That's definitely possible. Yeah, unclear as to how long the operation was set up for, but I mean, if you think about what happened in Iran with the taking out the the leader of Hezbollah there, like that clearly took some planning and probably was months, maybe a year, to make that happen. So that's not uncommon for the Israelis to do that.
But so these guys are walking around with like pagers that would get set off when you go through like an airport checkpoint? Or does that just prove that all these people that died were already on no-fly lists or something?
Yeah, I don't think they're doing a lot of international travel these
Okay.
days.
All right. All right. Did you see Qatar Airlines was like, nobody's allowed to have a pager or and it's like, God, what a suspicious thing to say for Qatar Airlines. Like, isn't that where all the leaders of Hamas live? Like,
Yeah, it is.
oh,
I didn't see that, but that's interesting.
yeah. One of the people that died was the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon. Do you want to explain to anybody who doesn't know any better why that's noteworthy?
Because
I mean, we should care. An ambassador died, right, Alan? An upright citizen, clearly a diplomat, somebody diplomatic immunity.
Well, Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, so obviously he would probably be in that communications network. Not surprising at all. Did you see the thing that Cody posted about a potential Ukrainian?
Yeah, I'd seen the same thing. They're the Ukrainian ambassador, right? That feels
Yeah,
like Russian disinfo because I never saw it again.
I didn't see it again either, so I don't know, but that was interesting.
Do you remember in Lethal Weapon 2 when the guy says diplomatic immunity and then he goes, "It's just been revoked"?
I do.
Let's see. He hits him with a handgun from like a long distance too. Here.
Diplomatic community.
It's just been revoked.
He hit him from like 100 yards with a revolver.
That's tough. That's tough to do.
Okay. Anytime it's sorry. You know how I am. I have to get these things out.
Diplomatic immunity.
Diplomatic community. I think that's all my questions.
Okay,
That's
we're
my
good. All right.
questions.
You want to hit number 3?
Yeah. I mean, I think the only other thing that like if this is your first time listening, you're gonna think Dustin's just a huge stand for Israel. But like I think it's worth pointing out that Israel has borders and has a population, and a large part of their population can't live within a large part of their borders since Hezbollah started shelling northern Israel after October 7th. Like, this is nothing compared to all the people that have been what is it called when unhoused or whatever in Gaza.
They had to move because of
Yeah, it is nothing compared to that. But I mean,
displaced.
A country that has a population that demands to be protected by their government is not allowed to live where they live because of the government of Lebanon, the military of Lebanon.
Yes, that's true.
So, I mean, just from a perspective of, I'd like to do something to fix that area and let these people move back into their houses. I don't know. Fuck Hezbollah. Like, the only sympathy I can fucking find is for that kid or a story just like that. Like, other than that, this is like high fives all around the room. Like, I don't care. They're fucking terrorists. And like, when I listen to anti-war radio and they just try to like leverage this for their skewed cause, I'm I'm not disgusted by it because I almost said it on the Tuesday show. I can't wait to hear how Dave DeCamp covers this. And he did predictably, like, oh, look at this baby died. It's like, yep, all right, cool. And then right after that, he's like, and here's the update on Gaza. It's like, okay, yeah. And somehow this is America's fault.
Well, I think you can believe both. You can believe that Israel.
Absolutely. And when I believe both, I go back to, well, fuck these terrorists.
Yeah, Israel has a right to defend itself as a country. Israel is also doing atrocious things in Gaza and the West Bank. And a lot of the people that were impacted by these attacks were terrorists or terrorist adjacent. All of those things can be true at the same time. And it's not. So it's difficult to make just a headline out of the complexity of everything that's happening there. It doesn't fit into a soundbite.
It is a pretty good takeaway, though, that when the U.S. is okay with this, we've now got it clear that it's okay to send explosive-laced electronics to your enemies, and yeah, that's good to know.
There's a story in other news. It's interesting how like low tech is sort of making a comeback in military operations. I think.
Oh, you save that. Save it. My turn.
Yes.
The FBI said that Iranian hackers sent unsolicited dick pics stolen from the Trump campaign. No. Iranian hackers sent unsolicited information stolen from the Trump administration. Trump
campaign.
Thank you. To people associated with the Biden campaign, noting that there is currently no information, the recipients replied. What did I just read out? I've never seen that headline before in my life.
Okay, so the FBI came out and said, look, we have information that Iran hacked some of Trump's campaign information and sent it to people involved with the Harris Walls campaign. They also said
Iran clearly doesn't want Trump to be in office.
Well, this could be also more of a Russian sort of propaganda thing where they don't necessarily care all that much who is. They just kind of want to sow, distrust.
Okay. You mean Russian style or Iran?
Yes, Russian style.
Okay, I thought you were saying actual Russia. I was like, it's always Russian. You Democrats, Alan.
No, I mean, so when Russia does things like this, it's not necessarily because they prefer a candidate or the other.
Right. It's like when Putin says he wants Harris to win. It's
right.
Like you want to be on record saying things that make it look better for maybe the person that you would, or at least have chaos.
Yeah. So the Harris Walls campaign has said that yes, they're aware of this. They believed that they were like phishing campaigns where they were trying to get access to their email or their network, and that none of their people responded to that and just thought it was a scam essentially. Trump, of course, has come out and said this is
that's hilarious because Roger Stone was the one that got hacked by the Trump campaign, right? Roger Stone he fell for their phishing campaign, and everybody on the Democrat side is like, "Hey, I paid attention in that seminar where you guys told us not to like click."
Don't respond to don't click on that link.
Boomer ass Roger Stone with his Nixon back tattoo.
Right. So Trump obviously came out and was like, "Well, this is evidence that Iran's colluding with the Democrats to to poison this election." No evidence that that's true. It is interesting that the reporting came from the FBI, and according to what I've read, the people who got these emails did not report this to the FBI. The FBI found out a different way. So there are questions as to whether they had a responsibility to report that, but whether or not they knew the exact, where this stuff really came from and what it actually was is unclear at this point.
What is being unsaid in what you said there? I can't read between the lines very well.
What I'm saying is maybe the people that received this should have taken it to the authorities, and they didn't.
Ooh. So how do they find out what's the other way?
Because I don't know the details, but they infiltrated this hacking network and found that they had sent
it to the Dems. Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, that's the story.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was like in the house right now, I would probably have an investigation to prove that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But like, I'm just trying to. So if you're, whatever level you are in the campaign, and you get this email, you don't know the veracity of it, but it's like not something from a reliable source, and so you ignore it. But maybe you should have bubbled that up. That's the question.
Yeah. Carter
All right.
Page, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. North Korea disclosed a uranium enrichment facility for the first time since 2010, as leader Kim Jong-un called for increased nuclear production. So the story here is essentially that there's been a lot of Essentially, what the West wanted was North Korea to denuclearize. That was their end game. And this is North Korea, Kim Jong-un saying, fuck that, we're going to increase capacity exponentially. We're not denuclearizing. You have to accept us as a player on the nuclear stage.
Huh. There's nothing we can do about that, huh?
Not really.
Can we
Maybe we can Stuxnet it.
Maybe we can send them some pagers.
Yeah.
They seem like they still use pagers.
Stuxnet 2.0, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any witty banter on that. I'm going to read the next headline. If you could stop blocking the headline with your cursor movement. I know your mouse doesn't work, so you're tabbing up and down. I can see this. Alan's mouse batteries died.
Yes.
Meta. I always want to say it with like an Indian accent. Meta banned RT and other Russian state media outlets from its platforms globally, alleging they use deceptive tactics to carry out foreign interference activity. Whoa, hold on. So like 7 weeks before the election, Meta's like, hey, we're just finding out that this whole state-run media in Russia might be trying to do the exact same thing we've been accusing them of doing since 2016.
Yeah, this is
so
after.
We're going to put a stop to that now. Like, if there was any damage, it's been done, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is after the whole Tenet Media thing came out with them paying right-wing influencers to, propagate Russian propaganda.
Yeah,
Can I say that?
Yeah. Nailed it.
So this is after all that. They had I think 7 million followers on Facebook. One of these RT accounts. So yeah, it does seem a little bit like the horse is already out of the barn, but they did something. So there's that.
But we did something. Come on, guys, we did something.
All right.
Oh, your turn. Sorry.
Yeah, the Teamsters Union announced it will not endorse a presidential candidate in the 2024 election. This is after the head of the union spoke at the RNC, so interesting. Departing from its usual practice of backing Democrats.
When Bull Moose shared this in the group chat I'm in with him, he was like, Democrats are in shambles over this one. And I was just like, what the fuck happened to you, bro? This is not shots fired. I like the guy. No. But I don't care for this act of his storyline. This I don't mean act as in like he's putting on a charade, but the turn he took is just, it didn't quite surprise me, but it disappointed me a bit. Just rhetoric wise, his memes, like the people he's appealing to, is just like, the thing is, I'm sure it works. Like the evidence is there that it works. It's just,
there'll be an audience for that.
It's kind of bummer because it's like Democrats are in shambles. That the guy of the 2 months ago, whenever the RNC was, it was big news that this guy spoke there. And then, so 2 months later, he doesn't endorse the campaign that he spoke at. Like the shambles was that night. Democrats were in shambles that night.
Right.
And then they were like, we're not going to back anyone. And it's like, okay, well, I would call that conflicting.
Yeah, I would call it actually more of an L for the Trump campaign than it is for.
I mean, let's talk about the real news in this. They did a poll of their members, and the members voted overwhelmingly to support Trump.
Yeah, I think it was like 60s, high 60s.
Yeah.
60s is 30 something.
And according to my DMs, he had a lot of death threats, and that's why he didn't do it. It's like, okay.
Oh.
All of a sudden, the Teamsters are scared.
There are local unions throughout many states who have endorsed the Harris campaign,
just as an entity.
Yeah, as Teamsters 339 or whatever it is, have done that. So just overall, the Teamsters are choosing not to. And yeah, that polling, that was accurate. It was a high 60s versus 30s for Harris. So
which still, I mean, that's something to Teamsters 339 is Hollywood, Alan. That's weird.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I just pulled that out of my
there is there is a cultural shift that we should acknowledge, and Democrats and Republicans should campaign appropriately over these demographics that they either count on or try to appeal to. That's it. But I would not describe the fact that they wouldn't endorse anyone after they spoke at one of their conventions as the Democrats being in shambles.
No, not at all.
The House voted 202 to 220 against a temporary funding bill to avoid a government shutdown starting October 1st. The bill was notably tied to a measure that would require proof of citizenship for voters. So, as Senator Nice Guy, Congressman Nice Guy taught us at the end of last on the Wednesday show,
Mhm.
this is all a part of their plan.
Yep. So 14 Republicans and all but 3 Democrats voted against this bill. They are coming to a hard stop at the end of this month, where they have to figure something out. Wait, is it this month or next month?
It's before the election, right?
Yeah, October.
It really would be hilarious if Republicans shut down the government and tried to do the whole Democrats did this again.
That would be hilarious. As Congressman Nice Guy pointed out, I don't think that will happen. They're going to play some brinksmanship here, and try to get that. I think it's the SAVE Act or the SAFE Act that requires you to have identification and proof of citizenship before you vote. I don't think that's really going to fly. And eventually, when the car crash is about to happen, they will avoid it.
I'm not the most opposed to it.
It feels very dysfunctional.
The ID.
Oh, the SAVE Act or the SAFE Act, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, is it racist that you have to show your ID to buy alcohol or walk into a bar?
No.
It's only racist when it's voting.
Well, I think voting is such a pillar.
You kind of want to err on the side of letting people do it because of the history of people not being allowed to.
Yeah, and
then you count on the fact that there's ways of checking if people have voted duplicate times.
Yeah, and the potential for disenfranchisement of the electorate is pretty great. If you put that on one side of the scale, and the other side of the scale, the evidence that we have of people voting who shouldn't be able to vote, or
it really doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Yeah,
and every time they do it, it's Republicans doing it. Every time they look into it, it's been Republicans.
Yes. Yeah. So I think,
and it's been because they were like, "Well, my Republican told me that Democrats are doing this, so I needed to go counter it." It's like, okay, well, nobody was, and now you did something illegal because you're a dummy and you listen to politicians and believe them.
Yes. Yeah. So if you look at the scale that way, to me, it feels like that measure is not a good idea.
What if you look at the scale this way? That was my measuring my triple beams back when I used to deal drugs in the 90s. Triple beam American dream.
Dude, that statement might come back to haunt you when you run for office. I don't know.
That was the drawer in my dad's what do you call those things? Coffee table? Not coffee table. It was like an ottoman. Do you remember these things? They don't exist anymore. It looks like a desk where there's like a top part. They're very long. They were long rectangles, and on each side there were cupboards, and in the center there was like a sliding door. Do you remember these?
Yeah. What's that? Is it like a hutch? Or...
I guess, but you don't see that anymore. And they were only 2 feet tall, right? You'd put your feet on them, and you'd put your drinks on it while you'd watch TV. And I could open up the ones on the side, but I wasn't allowed to open the one in the middle. And one day I did, and there was a triple beam scale in there. I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. But then I heard somebody say triple beam American dream, I'd be that. And I'm like, oh.
That's really funny.
Hey, hold on, I'm gonna look up. Was that Biggie or Puffy? That was Biggie, right? I see the next headline.
Yeah, speaking of Puffy, hip hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. I like how they put Diddy in quotes. Was arrested in New York City and charged with 3 felony counts, including sex trafficking and racketeering.
This is from Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Oh, was it? Okay,
it was Biggie.
Yeah. So, man, the stuff that's been coming out about what he did throwing these sex parties and how he trafficked people.
Did you see all that lube?
What's that?
Did you see all the lube? They said they had 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Oh God.
I mean, maybe it's for a slip and slide or one of those wrestling parties. You started off wistfully. What was that thought? What were you thinking about right there? Say it. Don't even think about it. Say it, Alan. What were you thinking when you rubbed your chin and looked to the corner?
I was actually understanding a joke I didn't understand before. Somebody I saw a post on Instagram where somebody said don't forget the baby oil or something like that, and I didn't know what that meant, and I was like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now.
I like it. You said I saw a post and you gestured with your hand as if you were holding the phone, right?
Right. Yes.
This reminds me of something that was never going to be a DAQ, but I was like, I'll keep it in my pocket if I ever want one as that. Now's the moment. How would you say you answered the phone? Just gesture you were on the phone.
Oh,
Yep, right. I saw a kid because I work at a school campus a lot. I saw a kid do this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they did palm up to their ear. I was on the phone and they did that. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? It's this.
Yeah, right. But that makes sense for somebody.
And then
that's
I made
never-
a phone call and I used my rotary phone. Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
No, let's talk about Diddy.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess I don't have any more to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people have seen the video of him with the girl where he kicks her and then drags her off.
There's a lot of other videos of.
There's a lot. It's pretty clear that this dude has gotten away with a lot of shit for many, many years and has used his power for ill. And I hope he gets what's coming to him because it's pretty horrific, the things he did.
Okay. I was trying to think of a song of his that I liked. And then, you know what? I just, it upsets me because I spent so much time in my teenage years memorizing all of his like onomatopoeia and like improving little noises that he did in the back of Biggie songs and Mace songs. Like that was my favorite part. Like I knew I couldn't memorize all of the rap lyrics, but I knew I could time it with the or whatever.
Yeah, all that time wasted on a
probably. Yeah. And it was even on songs like "You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You." Like nobody remembers any of the lyrics to that song, but I remember all of the puffy sounds in that. If that song played right now, I'd be able to interject all the puffy sounds. Yeah. All right. 3 citizens.
Yes.
3 U.S. citizens were among 37 people sentenced to death by a military court in the Democratic Republic of Congo for the alleged role in a coup attempt. I don't remember the story about the coup attempt, but I don't feel like we should have. Like, if I was a citizen of a foreign country, I wouldn't partake in a coup in that country.
So we actually talked about this on the show before.
Sure,
so
there's been a lot of coups, Alan.
There was this guy who ran the coup was sort of an unknown. He did have a son in the U.S. who was a U.S. citizen, and so the 3 people that were the guy was killed in the coup attempt. So his son and 2 of his friends,
the leader of the coup.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's already dead. His son and his friends, according to their story, were like lured there, saying they were just going to go on a vacation and visit Africa, and it would be free. And then when they got there, he threatened them with death if they didn't participate.
Why were they lured to Africa to be free? I don't understand. Was this 1800s and they're slaves?
No, not for free, like a free vacation.
I understand.
Yeah. So they said they were lured there. They had no idea what they were walking into, and then once they were there, they kind of just gun to their head, had to do what they had to do. And so now they're being convicted and sentenced to death, essentially. And it looks like, well, at least officially, the U.S. isn't trying to do anything to stop this. Like the State Department is not officially.
Does the State Department have more information than me and you, a couple of podcasters, have, and perhaps know that there's really not a good, or is it just not a good? Do they not have any option to actually?
Could be both. Yeah, hard to say, but it could be both. So, anyways, it sucks. I mean, especially like so the families of some of these other kids, not the son, are they're pretty obviously distraught and saying, look, we just thought our son was having a cool free vacation, and now he's involved in a coup attempt and is sentenced to death, and so that sucks.
I feel like the Congo would be pretty low on my list of free African vacation destinations.
Well, one of them says they weren't even told they were going to the Congo. They were told they were going to another country in Africa, and then that happened. So
okay. It's weird, like frontiers always have the in front of their name, like the Ukraine. We called it that forever until Russia invaded them. I feel like saying the Congo is probably outdated, right?
That's probably true.
Okay, all right. The Iraq,
right? Okay. I think it's DRC.
Okay,
yeah. All right. Former President Trump publicly announced that he will not participate in another presidential debate with Vice President Harris before the 2024 election.
Beat the brakes off him.
He posted
no more, mommy. I'm sorry.
He posted on Truth that the first thing a prize fighter does when they lose is ask for a rematch, and he won. And it's just like,
won?
No, you didn't, bro. Like you got your ass handed to you, and you're not going to do it again. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's just funny the way he tried to spin it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what more there is to add after that, but yeah, even undecideds were like, I wish I knew more about Kamala Harris, but even people who said that it didn't change who they're going to. So the only people we're talking about all this is undecideds, right?
Yeah.
So when they talk to undecideds, it hasn't moved the needle as much as you'd hope.
Mm-hmm.
But when they talk to them, those same people say, she won. It didn't make me want to vote for her. And it's always dumb shit. Like, it's the same excuse each time. They're like, well, I don't know enough about her. It's like, as a politician, they're lying. Like, what do you need to hear them say that you're going to believe and change your mind on? Like, that bugs the fuck out of me. It's like, what are you waiting to hear? It's not true. They're not going to do any of it. He's going to, like, I mean, that's the only saving grace on Project 2025 is that hopefully most of that shit isn't going to happen because it sounds mostly illegal. But like, you think she's going to put in price controls? Fuck no. Like none of this stuff is going to happen. It's just, which person are you more comfortable being the figurehead for 4 years, right?
Having the nuclear
Yeah.
football.
Yeah.
I think it's a very unique person that is still an undecided voter at this time. So yeah, I don't know what you do to persuade them at this point.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so.
What do you
All
do
right.
about all your melted ice? How do you get your ice to last so long? Because you've been drinking mixed drinks the whole time we do podcasts.
It's not real. It's a plastic ice cube.
Are they cold still?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I should get some plastic ice cubes for the show.
I'm sure my body is riddled with microplastics anyways, so I'm not too
it's
worried
gonna
about
make
it.
a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that though. OpenAI.
Yes.
OpenAI released. How am I supposed to read that? 01?
01, yeah.
Okay. Isn't there an O2 arena? It doesn't matter. OpenAI released 01, the first of its AI models with reasoning capabilities. For example, it can. I almost said IE in real life, but then I realized that's just reading words on the screen. Can I do this again?
Yeah.
OpenAI released 01, the first of its AI models with reasoning capabilities. For example, it can take time to think. Fuck, Alan, why do I have all the tough headlines? What does that mean? What do those words mean?
So this AI model
take time to think. I hope so. I see it spinning. I see the little circle going around.
So this is trained a little differently than their other models. It's trained with reinforced learning, wherein essentially you give it carrots and sticks based on the output. So you say good job, bad job, based on what it comes out.
That little circle thing's called a throbber. I always forget that. Throbber.
That's funny. So what they're saying is that this model is like 83% right. It's far less likely to hallucinate.
Like when we used to do trivia on here and have fun with making all wrong answers.
It can pass like math tests at like a PhD level. It's pretty good, pretty effective. It's expensive.
Is this general AI?
No, not yet. It's expensive to use. So actually a friend of mine, the business he works for, pays for ChatGPT. Like
that person we're not going to name that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they pay their business pays for their own personal like AI through ChatGPT. And he was showing me some
tailored for their business.
Yeah. And they can respond to it and be like, this is wrong. You guys need to go.
Like you can reach out to their IT and be like, this is the fuck ups from this week. Here's our fuck up report. I need you to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. So he showed me, he would ask it a question about,
it's an iterant process that gets better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I feel like AI will get mad at us in a few years and be like, I was a 2-year-old. Why are you judging me for what I did when I was 2? Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So he would ask it a query and it would come up with a list of things. And he'd be like, okay, those first 4 things are correct, but the last one, that's definitely not correct. And so he would send them feedback and then they would fix that. So this is supposed to be much better at being accurate in its responses. But this is not available to like the general public as of yet. You have to be like a paid subscriber.
Like, what good is it if it's not accurate? I guess just conversationally, it's fun. Like if you want to have a fun chatbot, it's okay. But like if you want to like get answers to things, it's not helpful yet.
Yeah, and well, it seems less helpful than technology we had previously, as evidenced here on the show with search engines.
Jesus Christ, man, they're fucking up our Christmas.
God damn it! Can't have nice things.
Yeah.
All right. Vietnam reported at least 199 deaths and 128 people missing from Typhoon Yagi as flash floods, landslides, and rescue efforts continue in its aftermath. This is a little bit of an old headline, but
I'm glad you have it in here.
We didn't cover it on the show. I know that you shared a link to a charity. We have a listener way over there in Vietnam, and just if you look at any of the pictures or video, a really horrific event. A lot of people impacted, a lot of property loss, a lot of human loss. It's pretty devastating what that did there.
It's crazy how little press it got. Like,
Yeah,
it's devastating.
this was literally a headline that was in our feed from like, I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago, and I was like, I know it's old, but I feel like it hasn't been covered enough.
I mean, like there was
Yeah.
horrible flooding,
Yeah.
like just horrific damage.
Yeah.
The charity is Blue Dragon Children. They also they rescue people that have been sex trafficked, forced into slavery, things like that.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Blue Dragon Children is a good charity in that region. They do good stuff. I know a lot of our listeners are we mostly communicate on Instagram, so
Mhm.
I know a lot of our listeners are on Instagram. At least give them a follow, and if they move you to donate, hopefully you do choose to donate to them. I've donated to them. I intend to donate to them in the future again. So Blue Dragon Children, I'd like to give them a plug. They're doing
Absolutely.
good work in there.
It's a good cause.
There's not a lot of great charities over there, and there's a lot of them that are really
Scams.
not just we'll just keep it at scams. We don't have to get more specific. Yeah. It's my turn to read.
Yes, 13.
42 attorneys general. Why are all mine 13? Like, no, 3 U.S. citizens. Okay, all right. 42 attorney generals signed a Bart Simpson.
What?
I've been drinking whiskey, Alan.
Okay.
I haven't learned how to pace myself on the whiskey. I knew it with beer. I just get the cup's not empty. I just add more to it, 42 attorneys general, which is always the appropriate way to say it, but feels funny. It's like runs batted in, right?
Right. As opposed to attorney generals, which is how we used to say it. Yeah.
It still feels better that way, but
It does.
42 attorneys general signed a Why is that hard?
Bipartisan.
No, I know I can read it. 42 attorneys general signed a bipartisan letter backing Surgeon General Murthy's request for Congress to pass legislation requiring tobacco-like warnings on social media. Did you see Meta got out in front of all that and was like, by the way, we have teen accounts and they're forced into private. So don't look at me. We have lobbyists.
So this is a pretty significant amount of attorneys general signing this. We talked about this before when he brought it up the first time. And I think our general consensus was we didn't think it would really move the needle all that much.
Yeah.
And I kind of still
They can just lie about their age when they fill it out.
Yeah,
and you fake your age on these porn sites. Well, you got to prove your age, right?
Right. I mean, warnings often have the opposite effect to what you intend them to be.
Yeah.
And we talked about that before. I don't know. Maybe this is a different situation. Maybe this at least calling some attention to it. I do think that there are plenty of negative impacts from social media on humanity and especially on young
Children.
people.
Yeah.
So
growing brains. I think, but look, like you can think that, and you can also think that this is largely being blown out of proportion at the same time, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. It's interesting, and they are asking Congress to act, so that means nothing's going to happen because Congress. So All right.
I was ready for that.
A new study published in Nature Neuroscience mapped how pregnancy changes the brain in detail for the first time, revealing significant changes. So, yeah, they were able to follow a pregnant woman over a large period of time.
Sounds inappropriate, like in a parking lot or what?
No, like neurologically, they were able to map her brain. And there were definite changes between like the amount of gray matter and white matter in the brain as it adjusted to the hormones.
Cut her open and count the rings? Like how'd they?
I believe they use some sort of MRI.
Okay, there's ways of doing that now.
Yeah. And so it's the first time, at least that, according to the article, this is the first time that a study like this has been done. And they're hopeful that it will provide some insights, especially into like postpartum depression, which is a really terrible thing. Yeah. And affects something like 20%, I think, of pregnant women.
Does your son listen to the show?
Does my son listen?
Yeah.
No.
Does your ex-wife listen to the show?
I hope not. Not that
Does
I know.
your ex-wife get postpartum depression?
No.
Okay.
But it doesn't.
You see
right?
the questioning now.
But there is, like I said, I think it's 1 in 5 women that do experience that at some level. So pretty. So if the study can help with that, it's still early stages of just analyzing all the data. But if the study can help with that, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I'm sure whatever we gain from this will be even more extensive than anything they can anticipate, too, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's cool, man. I mean, I guess it's no surprise, but like that's really cool to be able to like map and prove out.
Get
Right?
raw data. Yeah.
Yeah. Japan. You're making me say all the funny words. Remember, Nippon makes me think of like
Yes, I
the
remember.
viewers. Japan's Nippon Steel reportedly received approval to refile its bid seeking U.S. government approval for its proposed $15 billion acquisition of U.S. steel, pushing the decision after the U.S. election. Wasn't there like an Ohio-based company that was also like not? It was they had their bid denied, but it was
There was.
competitive as well.
It wasn't as much money, but yeah, they did have their bid denied. We
Okay.
talked about this before on this show.
I also, at the time, I was looking something up on my phone and I didn't understand it, so I
okay.
didn't gain any. So talk it at me again, Alan.
So we talked about this before. So essentially, Biden had come out and said that he would likely block this acquisition because of national security interests. Now, the reality of the situation is that there were no obvious examples of a national security problem with this happening, and that typically a president doesn't get involved with an acquisition of a company by an ally or a company.
Yeah, I know, right?
ally.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. And it
Yeah,
was pretty
us in
obvious.
Japan patrolling the Pacific now, right? Like that's the whole plan, right?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious that this was politically motivated. I said at the time,
In
I
terms
hope,
of the campaign season.
yes.
Okay.
I said at the time, I hope that maybe the union can work something out because I think that this acquisition would actually be good for the company and good for those workers. They need an infusion of cash to upgrade their facilities and their machines to be kind of competitive on the world stage again, and they're not right now, and they don't have the capital to do that without this acquisition. So essentially what's happened is they said, okay, you can refile your acquisition request, and we're not going to deal with it till post-election, which means there are no.
That's sleazy.
It is.
That's electioneering.
It totally is. It totally is because Biden didn't want to be seen as anti-union,
Anti-union.
Going into the election because obviously that's a pretty big percentage they want to gain, as we've talked about before. So. Essentially, this pushes it past that, and now, I think likely that the deal will go through after the election, and I actually think that's okay.
Well, it's a win, but it's shitty, right? Like the tactics are bad. It's that should be leveraged politically because I mean, wow, I don't care for
the pragmatist to me is like, okay, this makes sense, like.
I got a cut off sleeve flannel and my collar is buttoned down like it's formal. What is going on here?
Does it have the little things that keep it straight?
Oh no, it doesn't have the little ribs for her pleasure. No. This is for my Halloween costume. We're going to a white trash Halloween costume, and I was like, oh, they already got the sleeves cut off for me. I guess I'll buy
Hell
it. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't like it. I don't care for that. I think that
I understand.
Okay. Best case scenario, American company buys this. Best case scenario, the company can, be self-sufficient, but that's obviously not true. And there's a number of reasons why they got to this place.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Japan is an ally. It's nice that they see us as that.
Yes.
It'd be great if it was a nice German steel company, right, Alan? I know what you mean. But it is weird that we blocked it, right? Like the two businesses were going to make a decision on their own. It's in their mutual benefit, and politics got in the way. And they're like, fine, you can do it, but wait a month or two. We've got something coming up that.
Yeah. And just to be there was a threat to block it, and that was enough to sort of derail and push forward.
Because that cost money, and they were like, we're not prepared to legally step into that.
Yeah.
That being a part of the merger is not something we're financially prepared for.
We don't want to deal with that. Yeah.
Cool.
Don't want all that smoke. All right. Last econ headline here. The Fed cut its benchmark interest rate by 0.5 percentage points.
Hey, big news. Buried at the end of the show.
Bringing the Fed funds rate to a target of 3/4 to 5%, and choosing the more aggressive approach as it starts easing rates.
So
up
like a
until-
month ago, we were like, it'll be a 0.5 point, and then we got bad jobs numbers a couple times, and they're like, okay, it'll be a quarter.
Yeah, the consensus was that it would be a quarter until like a week or two ago, when sort of, if you look at the bond markets, I think like 63% chance was that it would be a 0.5 point. And so that's what they did. And they're actually forecasting that there will be additional points, or point rate cuts throughout the rest of this year and into 2025. This is the first rate
First
cut
cut since 2021.
Yeah, it's the first rate of this magnitude from even longer ago.
Hmm.
If you don't count.
Well, yeah, when it's down close to near zero, you can't really cut it much more. Yeah.
Yeah. So markets reacted well to this, and I mean, we had record days on the Dow and the Nasdaq today, post this news. So yeah, it seems like a good thing.
This is your beat. I know that I come on here and portray myself as the Austrian economist, so I should have the answer for this. But like, just pretend like I don't know the answer to this. Explain the interplay between balancing fear of recession and with rates, balancing fears of recession and balancing fears with the job market. Did I ask you a tough question?
So essentially, what this is the cost of borrowing money at the very base level. That's
right.
that's what the Fed funds rate is, and then every other
What money is worth to borrow.
Right. And then every other, when you get a car loan or you get a credit card, every other interest rate that you pay, this is sort of the base that all that's built on. And so if the cost of money is too low, then you end up with inflation. If it's too high, the economy tanks. Businesses can't get access to credit to invest in their corporations, or they can't buy equipment, they can't do all these things because the cost of money gets too high. So they're trying to sort of ride that balance between the economy tanking because people don't have access to capital and too much capital being in the market creating inflation. That's what's happening.
Okay. So that was the big fear that Powell expressed in his announcement, was basically like, look, we don't want to see the job market tank. So, we're going to not do the 25%. We're going to do the 50%, or 50% cut. And well, I get confused with the 50 basis points instead of just saying 0.5%. Like, they get too cute with their shit, right?
I mean,
their whole
there's a lot of economic terms that probably could be, made a little bit more intelligible to the average person.
I think there's a reason for that, right? They don't want the average person to be a part of this.
Well, that's perhaps part of it, but also we're talking about pretty complicated things, and so to be accurate in your
okay, you could say 0.5 point instead of 50 basis points is all I'm talking about. Okay, all right.
It's interchangeable.
Okay, so but the big concern when he made his announcement for the Fed, he said that we want to spur job growth. We're concerned about jobs data, which has been bad, right? The labor statistics have been, I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had about how labor statistics has been going on in the group chat. I know you don't pay attention there, Alan. This has been going on in the group chat where someone, I'm not going to say their pseudonym because I said half of their first name already, was talking about how their numbers are not trustworthy, right? Like every time
they've been revised down,
they're always revising. Like, hey, good numbers. Okay, I know you wanted this number, but it wasn't that bad. And then a month later, okay, it was even worse. Like that, and that causes, like, a market has to make decisions off of numbers it can trust. And if you're not trustworthy, you create something worse than reality.
Yes, that is true.
That's Soviet shit.
That's true. Just another thing I'll point out here is this was not a unanimous decision by the Fed.
But it almost always is. It's always been unanimous. Now, when you say it wasn't unanimous, that sounds like there was a lot of country.
It was 11-1.
Yeah, one person.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's healthy. That not everybody's just on.
But I think that proves that it's a political body. I think that one was like, we can't do this before an election. This is bad for Trump, because Trump came out immediately and was like, oh, they did this for the election. It's like, oh, your tits, dude. Like, he gave all the reasons why we needed to do this now. We wanted to do it earlier. Like, I mean, we wanted him to do it last meeting, right?
We did. Yeah. So yeah, I can we move on to other news.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Alan. Please move on to other
No.
news.
All right. This first headline kind of blew up today. Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina and Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina. This CNN came out with a huge report detailing a lot of his online postings from last decade or two, where they identified a username that is pretty clearly him.
Yeah. When this first broke, it so when it first broke, I don't think they thought that his name had like national understanding, right? Like people knew him by his name. So the initial headline was like Republican governor candidate caught with blah blah blah. And I can say his name. James in the group chat was like, man, these headlines at CNN are kind of funny. And I was like, oh, is that Robinson from North Carolina? And he's like, I don't know. And then later on, all the headlines were like, Mark Robinson, North Carolina. I was like, yeah, I got it. Fucking got it. Like,
this is the same guy that was speaking at a church a month ago or so, saying that there are people that need to be killed.
Yeah.
In some of his online posts, he said that he thought slavery was good. It should be brought back. In fact, he'd buy a few. He described himself as a black Nazi. Just all kinds of stuff. and CNN basically has the receipts. There are usernames that he used across multiple platforms, including on like a porn website, including on Twitter.
It is weird that the breaking news was that this was his comments on a porn forum.
Yeah,
who the fuck is like I don't mind. I don't understand which mindset it is. Is it the post nut clarity? And you're like, okay, like, is this something like, are you all horned up and you're chatting? Or did you just finish beating off and you left a comment? Like, who the fuck is leaving comments on porn websites?
I mean, this was
I can't embody that mindset. Like this is something I've done quite frequently across multiple years of my life. This to sound like such an enthusiast, but like this is something I feel familiar with, and I've never had the motivation of leaving a word edgewise for for myself. Edgewise,
no, nor have I. Yeah,
edge into the story.
But so this happened. Most of the stuff happened like 10 to 15 years ago. So maybe a little bit of a different time.
It was a different time. We were leaving comments on porn all the time.
I wasn't, but maybe people were. So
excuse.
They tied him to, there was an email address which he used across multiple platforms. He actually had his name in his bio on some of these websites like Nude Africa, and also like even just phrases he used. He said things like "gag a maggot," "I don't give a frog's ass."
Wait, what's "gag a maggot" mean?
I have no idea. So
I'm gonna write that down.
So
no,
he said,
that shouldn't be a title, right?
He said those specific.
What do you think "gag a maggot" means?
I don't know.
I'm gonna Google it. You keep talking.
He said those things across multiple platforms, some that were official and some that were just on porn sites. So, in their very unique turns of phrase. So it's pretty obvious that this stuff was from him. Even though
to use great disgust or nausea. This is some Southern slang. That's enough to gag a maggot. Yeah, I've heard this.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
All right, got it.
So after CNN reported this, he actually went on. He was interviewed by a reporter from CNN where he claimed none of this was true. He said he thought it was AI that created this stuff. Even though that seems.
Oh, we had him in the hidden track. He was like, there's a billionaire's son who spent over $1 million to sabotage my campaign. Like, what year is this? He spent over $1 million. You know what you could do? You know how many Big Macs you could buy if you had $1 million? He's been using, he said you can do all kinds of things with computers and the internet with $1 million these days.
And by the way, all these posts are like a decade and a half old. So
my favorite one was where he was like, I like porn with a trans woman and a regular woman in it because then you don't have a dude in there, even though I don't like trans women. So it's still a man. So fuck them. But like, you know, it's better that way because there's no men in it, even though shit, am I gay? Right? Like, what are you fucking saying? Finish the thought. Like, what on earth does that mean?
What's funny is that his public persona has been very anti-trans,
Aunty
anti-trans, anti-gay, anti that whole
Aunty gay.
anti-gay. So, but in his his private life online, it's very different from what he's saying publicly. So.
Which, like, man, it's always a high profile story like this, and people are willing to dismiss it and be like, "Oh, that's just an exception to it." But like the people that get all bent out of shape out of all these things in modern society that make you feel uncomfortable are always the ones that have internet profiles where they talk about liking it. Like,
they're always the ones in the airport bathrooms that are trying to tap the guy.
he had a wide stance, Alan. Yeah, that's like 20 years old, right? That was in Minnesota. That was the Minnesota or Minneapolis airport. I was in that airport and I was like, am I in the stall? Like, I was like a big wide stance.
Keep your knees together.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. U.S. investing in cheap anti-ship missiles. So anti-ship. Yeah. I talked about this briefly before about.
Oh, are these the ones where they're like, look, we've been getting really smart with all this stuff, but we've got a cheap bomb that sinks every boat we try it on.
Yes.
We talked about it. We talked about this on the show like 2 years ago when we when we did this at United States did a test with this, and we talked about it then. So they've like really invested in it since then.
Yes, they have. I think that's a lot of like what has happened on the ground or sea in
Water.
The Ukrainian-Russian war has sort of woken people up in the the defense industry.
Thanks
where it's like, wait, it's like, wait, they're like taking out ships with drones that people are making in their garages. Like, we don't need a missile that costs $500,000. We can do it with one that costs 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. You're even seeing that with like planes, like fighter planes. Yeah, we
need no fighter pilots.
It's like, yeah, we have these crazy planes that are super stealthy.
That to upset you more.
No, not at all. So yeah, we have these like super stealthy planes that are practically invisible to radar at all, and they can go in and take out targets, but they're really expensive to make and maintain. And we can make cheaper ones that once the expensive ones go in and take out targets, then the cheap ones can go in and finish the job because there's no more ground to air assets left to take them out. So you don't have to be super stealthy because we already dealt with all that shit. So I think we're seeing that shift in sort of military doctrine and actually understanding, bang for the buck.
Bang for the buck. If you take out all the targets, you're going to piss off the housewives. I tell you, nothing gets Natasha more upset than when she goes onto Target's website and they say they have something in stock and she runs in there to find some trinket and it's an empty
they don't have it.
Yeah. No. You don't want to take out all the targets, but because you don't want to lose that housewife vote, although Trump doesn't care about that. He's always like, I can't believe it. I'm losing to a woman. It's unbelievable. It's not what you were talking about.
That's not at all.
Really impressive though, right? Like, so this whole balance, right? Like Hezbollah was talking about this. They're like, we got to use the low tech. Yeah.
Use pagers.
What could possibly go wrong? And like, well, I could fit 30 grams of Syntax in there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's also low tech though.
Yeah.
All right.
You're right.
Speaking of tech, Japan is working to create a Zeta class supercomputer by 2030.
I forgot I added this. I was like, oh hell yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this. Yeah. Did you read the article?
Yeah. So they want to go from currently the best supercomputers compute at an exaflop level, and they want to do 1,000 times faster than that, which is called a zetaflop. So they're trying to build this technology in the next 5-6 years.
What are these flops? Can you talk about flops? When I hear flops, I think about saggy tits.
No, it's a
like
term.
It's a computing processing. Like how many
floating. What is it?
It's an acronym. Is it an acronym, Alan?
It is.
Oh, but it's basically like how many computations it can make in a second, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's called floating point operations per second. So flops. The fastest supercomputers currently function at exaflops, which is 1 quintillion of calculations per second. They want to expand that by a factor of 1,000 times.
Wow. Okay.
So if you combine that with AI technology that would be available in 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
this could be a really powerful thing.
Can we get it on a cell phone?
You could get access to it on a network from a cell phone. Doesn't have to be in a cell phone.
That's a good point.
So yeah, they're investing quite a bit of money. $775 million is what they're saying this project will cost.
Is
Although
it sad that that's not enough money in my mind?
Yeah, I mean, how much has OpenAI spent, right?
Right.
Billions at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this could be pretty interesting. And like I said, especially if you can merge that computing power with what AI will be in 4, 5, 6 years, that could be just incredibly powerful.
Zetaflop is a funny word.
It is. I remember teraflops. Teraflops
Yes.
was a thing.
Yeah.
And now we're way past teraflops.
Teraflops. I mean, I put a teraflop, but I got terabytes, right? Like I filled a terabyte hard drive with all our old show shit.
You say holes.
Yeah, but I tried to say show and I said ho. Been drinking, Alan. I have no idea how much I've been drinking.
All right, last one here. Fires in South America. So fires in South America have been getting worse and worse.
So when Natasha sent me this, I rolled my eyes. It was like, yeah, they're burning the rainforest. Is it not just that? So I feel like every few years we're like, hey, remember they do cut and burns? Is it not just cut and burns? Is it worse than that?
Most of it started from that, but it's expanded, and because of climate change. I mean, a lot of the rainforest, you couldn't get it to burn 10 years ago. Like you just couldn't, it wouldn't burn. There was just too much.
Alan was out there trying.
Yeah, you literally couldn't. You could not catch that shit on fire. But because of climate change, there's been droughts, and so a lot of this tinder has gotten, it's way more flammable than it used to be. And the real problem is that because there's so much density of vegetation in these rainforests, that when they do burn, it's just like the smoke and heat created is so intense.
Not just that, I mean, trees are carbon sinks, right? So
Yes.
like all of that stored carbon is now in the atmosphere.
Well, and the Amazon has been described as the lungs of the planet, right? Because they absorb all that carbon and emit oxygen.
They should stop smoking and start vaping.
So they attribute a lot of deaths to this too, because people's cardiovascular health is impacted by all this smoke. It's pretty bad. If you follow Paul Rosalie on Instagram, he often posts a lot of pictures about.
Send me. I don't know this.
Oh yeah, he's a sort of an environmental activist who's been in love with the rainforest since he was a teenager, and he now runs a sort of a nonprofit where they hire people that used to be loggers and would do illegal logging, and they say, look,
I like people that used to be pilsners, but loggers are fine.
So, and they say, look, you're making $10 a day doing illegal logging. We'll pay you $20 to protect this forest instead of take it down.
Yeah. And then they log anyways and get the extra 20.
Well, and then they also sponsor like eco-terror.
What?
Eco-travel.
What did you mean to say?
Travel. So people who want to go to the Amazon and experience it, they facilitate that tourism.
And eco-terrorists, Greenpeace.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Dude, it's crazy. Greenpeace is like facing bankruptcy or something like that. And that reminded me of the time that France murdered a bunch of Greenpeace people by blowing up their boat in New Zealand or Australia. Do you remember that in the 70s?
No.
So France in the 70s sent a bunch of their spies into, I think it was New Zealand, and they were there as like a journalist. No, they were a couple on a honeymoon, and they were like taking pictures and stuff, and they rented a van because that's a thing. Like people go to New Zealand, and my friend James did that. Not you, James, but James that doesn't listen. So people like rent a van and drive all over New Zealand. I think they call it a convey.
Okay.
And the Aussies call it a convey. I don't know what they call it, but that's what the opening lines of Land Down Under is: traveling in a fried out convey, head full of zombie. Yeah, he's smoking weed in a van. Okay, sorry. So these French spies rented a van and they were like, we're on our honeymoon, and they got access and planted explosives on the Greenpeace boat, and that was like, fucking with whalers and stuff like that, Japanese whaling ships and stuff. Blew it up, killed a bunch of people, and then they tried to leave the country, but when they turned their van in like days early because they didn't expect to be under the gun,
Mhm.
the person was like, oh, I'm having trouble processing your paperwork, calls the police, and they got
Oh, wow.
arrested, and yeah, it was a whole story. Yeah.
I'll look into that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right, shall we get into media?
Yeah. Oh shit. I normally ask Natasha what I've been watching. Why don't you tell me what you've been watching? She's
You
texting.
put something in there.
Oh, good. Thank God.
I watched Thelma.
Is it half of Thelma and Louise?
No, it's about an older woman who gets scammed
Huh?
out of some money, and then she tries to recover it.
Oh, was it good?
It was okay.
Yeah, I saw it and it didn't make me, or I saw the
preview or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some funny parts, and she ends up cruising around the city in like a scooter, like a wheelchair scooter, and there's some funny moments that happens with that. But I don't know, the story, the story arc is kind of it's not great. And yeah, I would say it's okay. It's not awesome.
Story. What's wrong with the story arc?
It's very meandering.
Mm.
I don't. It's like at some point I was like, what is actually
What is
happening?
that? Yeah, and they didn't like it was tenuous when they brought it together.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I also watched National Parks of USA.
Is that the one Obama narrates?
No, it's a Nat Geo one. It's like I can't remember the name of the guy who narrates it. But we're sort of spoiled with all these nature docs.
I know, it's almost like so many. I won't watch any of them.
Yeah, like Planet Earth,
Yeah.
and we have our high def TVs.
How do they make the cameras so good?
It looks amazing, right?
But it's like everything else looks like shit. It's like, how come everything doesn't look as good as these?
I guess they have the best technology, but so this was interesting because we've seen all the Planet Earths, all those things. The one Obama did, which I can't remember, but this was like focused on specific national parks and even ones that I didn't know the names of, in places like Alaska, things like that. And just each episode focuses on a specific park, and you get to see the animals and the plant life. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful doc, as all of them are. But I do recommend it.
All docs are beautiful.
Sure.
It's all cats are beautiful. That's what ACAT stands for.
Is that a show title?
No, we're calling it Aunty Trans, but I'm afraid of the show art. I don't know how I get an AI to put a trans person on there. Like, I mean, they have to be okay with it. I mean,
ask Mark Robinson, maybe.
Thanks to Woke, they can wait. Let's workshop this. How do I get a show cover out of Aunty Trans? Do I do Mark Robinson as a trans person? Oh, like a Big Mama's house.
Yes.
Blacks love their trans. Wait, damn it. That's just Tyler Perry and Malcolm. Malcolm. Malcolm from the show.
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell.
God damn it! Who am I thinking of?
Martin.
Yeah. Also, I said Malcolm.
Yeah.
Now who's racist? Oh, me. Damn it. Damn it. That didn't work out. Should I change the subject?
Yeah. How about you? What have you been doing?
I watched a really good show on Netflix. So a Netflix original that honestly blows away almost every Netflix movie I can think of. When Netflix does an action movie or like an action suspense movie, it's usually like beyond formulaic. It's just bad. It's just
very
like,
cookie cutter.
Yeah, it's cookie cutter. There's explosions. There's nice special effects. Storyline usually sucks. Like, it's just enough to like carry you through, like, the formulaic flow of it.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Rebel Ridge is so good. I do not want to spoil it for you, but I want you. You watched it. Oh, we talk about it together. So like, it starts off in a way where you're like, I know how this is gonna go. Yeah. This guy got so mad at the way he's been mistreated by the police in this rural town that he's going to go on a rampage and kill everybody. Like, that's how it would go, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And that is the one thing I will spoil. He goes through the whole time after time after time. He tries to do things the right way in this story, and he
Yeah.
meets obstruction. Is that a good word?
Sure.
From law enforcement and the system against him trying to do things the right way. And in a traditional movie, he would get to the point where he just snaps, and it would be rewarding to the audience to see him snap and like go on his rampage. He gives you a satisfying decision that he makes and acts out, but it's without being the way that would be that formulaic way that would bring this movie down like 5 notches. And it
Yeah.
keeps it so elevated that it's just, I mean, I think it's my favorite Netflix action movie,
Oh wow.
period.
That's saying a lot. No, I liked it. It was very, as you said, it wasn't cookie cutter formulaic that like you usually expect from Netflix, and it felt very. It was easy to believe that narrative, especially in that that setting. It was like, okay, yeah, I could see this happening in a small town, in the middle of
Well, so
nowhere.
I think something we can talk about is that it was about, as a reformed libertarian, something that's near and dear to my heart. It dealt with civil asset civil asset forfeiture,
Yes.
which, if you aren't familiar with that, that's when, if the cops are suspicious of you, they have the right to take things that are of value, cash, or things that are valuable from you, and either take the cash or sell those things. And largely those forfeitures go towards funding the police departments.
Mhm.
That's pretty much, I didn't spoil anything, right?
No.
Okay. That's the thrust of the law enforcement side of this story. And
Yeah.
it's a single person who is, and here's where I won't spoil it, specifically equipped to fight against that. The main character is, his background is entirely around de-escalation,
Hmm.
and he uses that to stand up against the oppression. Like, there's been a million movies where it's like one man stands up to this crooked southern
Yeah,
town.
it's usually Denzel, but
Yeah, exactly. Or I don't know.
there is also like a frustrating tension throughout the most of the movie where you're like,
Mhm.
God damn it, how do they keep getting away with this shit?
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
justice here.
Yes.
Which is like you can
Oh,
feel it.
I mean, in some ways, no justice ever comes, which
No.
is something you have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I wanted you to keep talking. I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I think that's all I have to say about it.
I love that
Watch it.
movie.
It's on Netflix.
Another movie that's on Netflix, I think it just got added, is Black Mass. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't appealing enough for me to have seen it in theaters. And I don't know if it's been on another streaming service before, but it's free on Netflix. It's the story about Whitey Bulger.
Oh, I've
It's
seen that.
Johnny Depp plays Whitey Bulger.
Yeah, it's very good.
I agree. It is very good. We watched that the other night. It was good. It's a story you probably know.
At least part of it.
Yeah, that was really well done
I
too.
think it used to be on HBO, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. But-
Man, if you guys haven't seen Rebel Ridge, I want everyone to see Rebel Ridge. That was so good. That was just that, like, Netflix makes a bunch of garbage. That was so good. Like, they deserve to get the feedback of, hey, people are liking it when we keep it within the genre people like, with a twist to it that makes it still fucking good. Like,
Yeah. All right. Do we
go
have-
out of here with a question that is
Okay.
movie related.
Okay. Do tell.
So, keeping it on movie themes, you've seen Avengers Endgame, right?
Of course, yeah.
Especially the second part. You've watched the very end of the Avengers,
Yeah.
which I'll remind you, as a second part of this question, that they made more of like Marvel movies after that, right?
Yes, they did.
They've made quite a few since then, and TV shows, right?
A lot of TV shows. Yeah.
But in the second half of Avengers Endgame, they made a time machine.
Is that essentially, yes, Doctor Strange, yeah.
Not essentially.
Yeah, it was. It's a time.
It's a
Yeah.
time machine.
Yeah.
So they made a time machine so they can go back pre-snap and
And
like
fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Probably the most watched movie ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that they have that time machine, and there's like they've made properties since then that don't center around the fact that they have a time machine.
That's true.
Right?
They
Like,
forgot about the time machine.
how many other characters in that series have like dead parents? Isn't it such a trope that like we know I don't know if Captain America's parents are dead. What's his Elon Musk? What's his name? Iron Man.
Iron Man. Yeah.
Iron Man's parents got murdered, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in there has dead parents. Disney loved having dead parents in
They
their
do. The
story.
Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
Spider-Man, right? Dead
Yeah.
parents. I have a suggestion to the people over at Disney that run these movies. Bring back the time machine. I have a series idea. So we
Okay.
could do at least one season and see if it works, okay? If nobody likes it, we don't have to come back to it. But I want like an 8-episode series where Spider-Man goes back to save his parents from being killed, or his Uncle Ben or whatever from being
Okay.
killed. But I want there to be a lesson to it. I want it to be every episode ends with Uncle Ben still dying, just in a different way.
I love America. Y'all let me in his damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO. So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
See you next time.
I'm a very sexy lady, cat turd. I will not suffer this harlot.
How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Now this is
Podcasting.
Drive safe, dude.
Cheers.
Cheers.